All right, so we are going to continue our study of objects and classes, and we're going to continue to work on our triangle class here. Remember, we have one class represents a triangle that has data of base and height, and then another runner class which makes some triangle objects and calls some of the methods using the different objects. So you use object name dot whatever method we want to run. Looks like we have 3 triangles made at this point. All right, and so I want to talk a little bit in this video about how do you change the base and height. Okay, so originally we had said like, well, I guess in our constructor we're constructing the base and height, right? But then let's say they wanted to change them, right? So triangle one, we wanted to change the base and height to be like now, I don't know, 25 and 4 or something like that, right? So previously we modified base and height by using dot base dot height, but the problem is we made these variables private. Okay, so like one way to fix it would be to take away this word private, and then basically these I think by default are public. So if I save all that, then my triangle runner is okay because you can access them directly. All right. However, this is not how it's done traditionally in Java programming. Okay, so traditionally what they do is they make these data private like I had it. All right. And then if we want to um, change, sorry, wait, we're double there. If we want to change the base and height, we're going to make a public method that does it. So the variable itself is private, and then the method becomes public. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure why Java does it that way, but basically that you're going to see this all over, like on maybe on the AP test, or like if you ever become a programmer, you would see this. That's the convention. Okay, so what they're going to do is, again, the data will be private, and then it'll make what's called a get and a set method, like a getter and a setter. So let's do a getter method. Okay, so basically you have one getter for each one of these variables. So like I would basically do a method called get base that allows them to get the base, right? If they ever want to print it out or something like that. So basically I'm going to do public and then the return type of double and then call it get base, or you don't have to call it that, but generally you want to call it something meaningful. And all this method does, it's pretty simple. It's just you're going to return that base. So again, the variable then becomes private, but the method is public. Okay, so if I ever want to get my triangle's base over here, right, I can't do this triangle base anymore, but I can do, let's say if I just want to sys out print the base of triangle one, I can just do base and then triangle one dot get base. Right, now that I have a get base method, I can call this triangle one dot get base. Okay, and so that should give me access to that base number, which I think is 10 here. All right, so there it says base is 10. All right, so the idea is I made a method that allows me to get access to this private base variable in triangle. Right, it's a private variable, but that I can get it. All right, if I actually want to change it, that's called like a setter method. So that would allow us to, like, I know we can set the base and height in our constructor, right? That's what's being done right here. But maybe you want to change the base. Okay, so then we want to do like basically we want to be able to call triangle one dot set base instead of get, and then I'm going to pass in a new base number. So maybe I'm going to make my base 25. I guess I do it like a double. Okay, so I'm just going to construct that method now in triangle. I'm going to make that method. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, and this one I don't need to return anything because I'm just going to set the base, set this base. So it's going to look a lot like this. So I'm just going to do public void because I'm not returning anything, and I'm going to go set base, and then I'm going to do a double. That's like the new base. Okay, I could call it base in again or whatever, but I'm just going to call it the new base. So I'm going to set the base variable in this triangle objects to be new base. And again, remember this base is like a global variable, an instance variable, right? So it originally is set in the constructor, but then I can change it with this set base method. Okay, so if I save all this, go back to triangle runner, right? If I call get base here, it'd be 10, but now I'm going to set it to 25, and so you can see that it'll change. So it'll be 10 the first time, but then we'll set it, right? And so now my base is 25. So you can see it's 10 originally, and then here, I'll scroll the code. You can see both of them at the same time. As you can see, I have my base at 10 originally, then I set the base to 25, and now when I do get base, it's 25. Okay, so if I go back here, we're going to add methods like a get and set. So right now I've added, let's see, I could add these down here. I've added a double called get base, and then a void one that sets the base. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is see if you can now do one for the height. All right, so usually, sorry, I'm going to make this match the other size here, but usually you'll have a get and set method for each of these variables, right? So we did the get and set method for the base variable. See if you can do the get and set method for the height. It should be really similar. Okay, so I'll scroll back to my code here in Triangle, but see if you can get those methods, and then you could call them in the runner a little bit. So pause the video and give them a shot. Okay, so here we go. So this was our original setter method for the base. And I mean, honestly, you could copy and paste these if you want, but basically we'll add another getter method here. So I'm going to do public double and then get height, because the height is a double variable again. And all it's going to do is return that height. And again, we have to do this because the variable is private, but I make a public method that allows us to get, public method here to allows us to get access to it. Okay, and then set height would be really, really similar. Public void set height, and then I'm going to do a double called a new height. So they're going to send that in the runner class, and then I'm just going to set height to be whatever height they send in, which would be new height. All right, so that'll set this height variable, this private height variable, to be whatever new height the user wants. So it allows them to modify from their original triangle. Okay, so going back in runner here, I'm going to delete a little bit of these lines here. I don't need them anymore. Right, so here's our triangle 1, and maybe just to make it clear, I'll delete all this other stuff just to make it super simple. So you've got triangle 1, an instance or object, okay, and then I've got a base and height originally. So let's do the area method quick. So we can say triangle 1 dot get area, and remember you do, oops, keep forgetting to type the 1 there, right? So you basically do the name of your object dot again. Okay, so we can call set base now since we've made that, and I can also call a set height. So I'm going to make it 25 and 4, so I'll change these original numbers, right? For maybe the triangle grew or shrunk or something for some reason, right? But now when I call it get area, it'll have a different area. Okay, so in this sense, again, like a triangle is like a variable, right? It's their own variable type that changes, right? The data changes with time. And I know it doesn't make sense a lot for a triangle because it's fixed, but if you think more of like a person class, like if you made a person, their age would change with time. Or maybe a player in a video game, their number of kills would change with time, their weapon list would change with time, right? So that the variable, the data of the object changes with time. Right, and you can use the set methods to do that. Okay, so you can see that the area changed when we changed the base and height. A good trick here too is like once you have an object created, this is creates the object right here, right? You can just use that name, and then what I often do in Java is type dot, and I can see all the things I can do, right? And so you should see the methods we made here. So if I type dot get, you can see all the get ones I made, area, base, and height. This .get class, we'll talk about where that's coming from. That's something called inheritance, which is I think the next chapter. But basically, you can see the ones we made, right? If I want to look at my set ones, you can see the set methods that we've made in the triangle.java class, right? So that's sort of all the things you can do. So kind of giving us our picture again to complete this, right? We have the different variables, base and height, and now we have all these different methods. I guess I should add get height and set height there. Sorry, this is getting complex now, but you can see you've got a set height and a get base and a set base, along with our say hello, get area methods, right? And we can make as many as we want. And we can also add data, right? We could add like another string variable representing is it obtuse, acute, or right? We could add whatever data we want, but for now, that's what we've built in our class. Okay, and remember, besides methods, constructor is like a special method that allows you to create an instance of the triangle, right? And usually in the constructor, you just pass in some numbers that set these instance variables. In this case, we just have base and height, so those get passed in, right? And that was in a previous lesson. That's the constructor that sets them to initial values. All right, that is it. Thank you for watching.